in AI as a competitor. He drove me to be as more obsessive about the game because I had to figure out how to solve that problem.
Kobe, um, true competitor. I know that he's retired now. He's gonna go on to do even greater things. He's a great man.
People look at me and they don't know my name, but they know you coached Allen. And that really hits you.
Allen Iverson wasn't just a basketball player, he was a phenomenon, a cultural earthquake that measured 6 feet tall and weighed barely 165 pounds. When he entered the NBA in 1996, he didn't just join the league, he collided with it, and that collision created enemies, powerful enemies, NBA legends who couldn't stand what he represented, how he played, or who he was. This isn't a story about jealousy, this is about something deeper, something that exposed the cracks in the foundation of professional basketball itself. The hatred started where all great rivalries begin, with Fear, March 19th, 1999, Philadelphia. The lockout-shortened season was grinding through its schedule when Allen Iverson dismantled the Los Angeles Lakers. 41 points, 10 assists. But the numbers don't capture what really happened that night. Kobe Bryant, the young guard who prided himself on defensive tenacity and relentless preparation, was helpless. Completely and utterly helpless. And Kobe hated that feeling more than anything in the world. This wasn't just a bad game for Kobe. It was a humiliation that rewired his brain. He couldn't accept that someone could outwork him, outperform him, or expose his inadequacies so publicly. So Kobe did what obsessive competitors do. He declared war, not a friendly rivalry, an actual psychological war. He later confessed that he obsessively read every article and book he could find about Iverson. He obsessively watched every game Iverson had ever played, going back to the IUPU All-American game. This wasn't standard scouting. This was a descent into mania. But here's where it gets bizarre. Kobe's hatred drove him to study great white sharks, specifically how they hunt seals off the coast of South Africa. He watched footage of sharks waiting patiently beneath the surface, tracking their prey, learning the exact moment when the seal breaks the water, that split second of vulnerability. That's what Kobe was searching for with Iverson. He mapped the exact height of Iverson's pickup point on the dribble. He analyzed the biomechanics of every crossover. He looked for the DNA of Iverson's movements in amateur footage, trying to find habits formed before NBA coaching intervened. The depth of this obsession was pathological. Kobe vowed that no one was going to have that kind of control over his focus ever again. And his revenge came in February 2000 when he held Iverson scoreless for an entire half. Sweet revenge, Kobe called it. But even in victory, he remained annoyed. Annoyed that Iverson had forced him to such extremes in the first place. The hatred Kobe felt was really hatred of his own inadequacy. Iverson was the #1 pick in 1996, Rookie of the Year, an immediate cultural icon. Kobe came off the bench. He destroyed hotel rooms after seeing Iverson drop 35 points on SportsCenter while he sat watching. The Black Mamba persona that defined Kobe's career was built on the foundation of hating what Iverson represented. The player who terrified him most. If you're realizing just how deep this obsession went, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me which NBA legend had the most justified reason to hate Iverson. Because trust me, we're just getting started. While Kobe waged psychological warfare against Iverson, Larry Brown waged a different kind of battle, a philosophical one. Brown represented the old-school academic approach to basketball, team-oriented, defensive-minded, obsessively disciplined. Every practice mattered, every meeting mattered, every detail mattered. And then there was Allen Iverson, who represented the exact opposite of everything Brown believed in. Larry Brown hated coaching a player who refused to adhere to the structural norms of professional preparation. Brown's philosophy was simple. Practice was where championships were won. But Iverson found this concept redundant. He was playing heavy minutes every single game, absorbing physical punishment that would break most players. Why did he need to grind through another practice? Brown expressed total frustration with Iverson's habit of showing up late or missing team meetings. He loved Iverson as a person, but hated coaching a player who defied the right way to play the game. This was a daily war. Brown came from the Dean Smith school of thought, the rigorous North Carolina system that valued punctuality and repetition above all else. Iverson came from Georgetown, from John Thompson's program that valued heart, toughness, and game time performance. two completely incompatible philosophies trapped together on the same team. The tension exploded after the 76ers were eliminated by Boston in the first round of the 2002 playoffs. Brown publicly criticized Iverson, stating that he has to change and has to be practicing, that he has to set the example for younger players. This public undressing triggered one of the most famous moments in sports history, the practice rant of May 7th, 2002. But here's what gets lost in the sound bites: the context. Brown had just threatened to trade Iverson or resign if the culture didn't change. And Iverson, feeling betrayed, repeated the word practice over 20 times. "Not the game that I go out there and die for," Iverson said. He believed his physical sacrifice, playing through multiple injuries, bought him leeway. Brown believed discipline was non-negotiable. Brown heard defiance. Iverson felt betrayed, and the hatred between methodology and instinct reached its breaking point. The paradox is that despite this hatred, despite the daily battles over dress codes and buses and shoot-arounds, Brown and Iverson achieved something together that neither found anywhere else. They reached the 2001 NBA Finals. They stole Game 1 from the unbeaten Lakers. Brown later admitted to a profound love for Iverson the person, acknowledging the uniqueness of their bond. When Brown won a title with Detroit in 2004, he immediately told Iverson they would win an Olympic medal together. But that Olympic experience was also a disaster, further highlighting the dysfunction of their dynamic. When the structure of the 76ers organization was removed, Brown hated the chaos Iverson brought, but he loved the competitor within the chaos. That tension never resolved. It just existed, burning slowly year after year. Then there was Phil Jackson, the Zen master, the architect of 13 championships, the man who viewed basketball through the lens of the triangle offense, a system predicated on ball movement, spacing, and the suppression of individual ego for the collective good. To Phil Jackson, Allen Iverson wasn't just an opponent. He was a pathogen, a virus attacking the tactical integrity of basketball itself. Jackson's hatred was intellectual. He despised hero ball, the isolation-heavy style where one player dominates possession while four teammates stand and watch. Jackson argued this style, popularized by Iverson and later adopted by Kobe Bryant to Jackson's dismay, was boring to watch and detrimental to the geometric beauty of the game. In his book The Last Season, Jackson contrasted the Iverson style, high-volume shooting, high turnovers, ball dominance, with the efficient team-oriented play of the Detroit Pistons or his own Bulls teams. He viewed the Iverson archetype as a regression from the team-centric basketball of the 1980s. To Jackson, Iverson was a heretic against the religion of the triangle. But Jackson didn't just criticize from afar, he weaponized the rulebook. During the 2001 NBA Finals between the Lakers and the 76ers, Jackson launched a media campaign accusing Iverson of palming the ball on every possession. He argued that Iverson's hand went under the ball's equator, allowing him to pause play illegally. This wasn't just about rules, it was strategic. By pressuring referees, specifically Steve Javie, Jackson hoped to force turnovers and neutralize Iverson's speed. He wanted to paint Iverson as a rule breaker rather than a skilled artisan, delegitimizing his dominance entirely. Jackson hated that the league allowed this evolution. He viewed the non-enforcement of the palming rule as the NBA prioritizing star power and entertainment over the integrity of the rules. This friction was a clash of eras. Jackson represented the structured past. Iverson represented the fluid, rule-bending future of the guard position, and Jackson hated every second of it. While legends battled Iverson on the court, Commissioner David Stern battled him in the boardroom and the court of public opinion. Stern's hatred was institutional and corporate. He viewed Iverson's authentic hip-hop expression, cornrows, tattoos, baggy clothing, and jewelry as a direct threat to the NBA's marketability to corporate sponsors and white suburban audiences. Stern hated that the face of his league was unpalatable to Madison Avenue. In the post-Jordan vacuum, the NBA struggled with ratings and identity. The malice at the Palace Brawl in 2004 exacerbated the perception that the league was thuggish and out of control. Stern believed that to save the NBA's image, he had to sanitize it, and Allen Iverson, with his sleeve tattoos and connection to rap culture, was the visible face of everything Stern feared. Stern loathed the aesthetic Iverson normalized. The war reached its climax on October 17, 2005, when Stern Stern implemented the NBA dress code. While the policy was applied league-wide, everyone understood it was targeted specifically at Allen Iverson. Sleeveless shirts banned because Iverson wore oversized throwback jerseys. Headgear banned because Iverson popularized the do-rag and tilted fitted caps. Chains and pendants banned because Iverson wore heavy platinum and diamond jewelry. Timberland boots banned because they were a staple of Philly and New York hip-hop style. Sunglasses indoors banned because Iverson wore them post-game. This wasn't about professionalism, this was about race. Players like Jason Richardson and Steven Jackson called out the racist undertones, noting that chains and Timberlands were culturally specific bans. The dress code was a move to de-black the league's image to appease a white fan base. Iverson pushed back, stating they're targeting guys who dress like me. Put a murderer in a suit and he's still a murderer. That quote cut to the core of the conflict. Stern hated the packaging regardless of the person inside it. Iverson argued that character was internal. This war over image defined the mid-2000s NBA. Ironically, Iverson's style eventually won. The fashion-forward, individualistic NBA of the 2000s is a direct lineage of Iverson's rebellion, despite Stern's aggressive attempts to suppress it. Now let's talk about Tyronn Lue. His hatred is different. It's not about competition or ideology or business. It's about legacy. Lue was a solid championship-winning role player and is now a highly respected head coach, but his playing career is frequently reduced to 3 seconds of footage. The step over. Lue hated that his entire existence as a player was eclipsed by Iverson's moment of triumph. In the 2001 NBA Finals, the Lakers were undefeated in the playoffs, but Iverson exploded for 48 points in Game 1. Tyronn Lue was brought in specifically to mirror Iverson. Possessing similar speed and size, Lue actually defended Iverson effectively in the second half, hounding him and disrupting his rhythm. Lue later said that if Milwaukee had beaten Philly, he wouldn't have played, and that could have been his last year in the NBA. This series saved his career, but none of that matters because of one play. Iverson executed a crossover, pulled back to the corner, and hit a jumper over Lue. As Lue fell backward, Iverson deliberately stepped over him, staring down at him with disdain and dominance. That moment became one of the most replayed highlights in NBA history. It turned Lue into a prop, a permanent victim in Iverson's hero arc. Lue admitted in interviews that for years, he hated how that moment overshadowed his 2 championship rings and his defensive tenacity. The viral nature of the play turned him into a meme before the concept fully existed, freezing him in a moment of humiliation forever. His hatred was the frustration of a professional whose competence was erased by a singular act of disrespect. Finally, there's Gary Payton, the glove, widely regarded as one of the greatest defensive guards in history, the only point guard to ever win Defensive Player of the Year. His hatred for guarding Iverson was a testament to Iverson's unique physical resilience and motor. Payton thrived on intimidation and physical dominance, 2 weapons that were utterly useless against Iverson. Payton hated that Iverson was the only player who made him feel helpless. Usually, Payton could break an opponent's will by physically battering them or verbally destroying them with legendary trash talk, but Iverson possessed a masochistic resilience. Payton noted that Iverson would keep coming at you regardless of how many times you hit him. The hatred was the frustration of a master craftsman finding a puzzle he couldn't solve. Iverson's speed neutralized Payton's strength. Iverson's fearlessness neutralized Payton's intimidation. Payton spoke about the sheer exhaustion of chasing Iverson. Unlike other scorers who might take plays off or avoid contact, Iverson was relentless. I hated that he does not get the respect of the refs, Payton said, but more than that, he hated that Iverson was unbreakable. To Payton, Iverson was a pest in the most complimentary sense, an unrelenting force that ruined the defensive game plan simply by existing. The hatred was the highest form of praise from a defender who rarely admitted vulnerability. Before we wrap this up, I need you to do something. Comment below and tell me this. Did these legends hate Iverson because he exposed their weaknesses, or because he refused to play by their rules? Let's get that discussion going, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because we're breaking down the NBA's most controversial figures every single week. So what does all this hatred actually mean? Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. The hatred directed at Allen Iverson by Kobe Bryant, Larry Brown, Phil Jackson, David Stern, Tyronn Lue, and Gary Payton wasn't really about Iverson at all. It was about what he represented: change, evolution, disruption. For Kobe, Iverson was the whetstone that sharpened his competitive edge, driving him to the study of sharks and the relentless pursuit of perfection. For Brown, Iverson was the chaotic genius that tested the limits of discipline and the right way to play. For Jackson, Iverson was the stylistic rebel that challenged the systemic purity of the triangle offense. For Stern, Iverson was the cultural insurgent who forced a corporate reckoning regarding race, image, and marketing. For Lou, Iverson was the shadow that eclipsed a solid career, reducing a champion to a footnote. For Peyton, Iverson was the unsolvable riddle that proved even the greatest defender could be rendered helpless. In every single instance, Iverson forced these legends to react, adapt, and evolve. The hatred was the friction of progress. Iverson didn't just play within the NBA. He stretched it tactically, culturally, and economically until it accommodated him. And here's what's beautiful about that. The modern NBA, defined by individual branding, player empowerment, and offensive freedom, exists in the space that Allen Iverson carved out while everyone else was busy hating him. They hated him because he wouldn't conform. They hated him because he couldn't be controlled. They hated him because he was exactly who he said he was, regardless of the consequences. And in the end, that hatred became his greatest legacy, because you don't get hated by legends unless you're changing the game. And Allen Iverson changed everything,